Hello everybody, and welcome to Metaworld Inworld, or whatever we call this. I was just experiencing a bit of channel lag here, so good job I'm not watching the screen. Here we go. Those of us here in the wonderful Inworld studio at Chilbo are talking to you live, and live stream is actually getting it to you about 1 minute later. But who cares? Who cares? We are now here, and welcome to the week in World. Um, I'm always meant to tell you the date, aren't I? So we get this right. And last week, I'm not going to do the 19 again. No, no, no. It is the 17th of February of 2013. And we're broadcasting live from Chilbo in Second Life. Welcome, everybody. This is a sort of show within a show inside the Metaverse Week In Review, basically. And I'm joined, as ever, by Safia Widgens. Hi, Safia.
Hello, Mal. Good to be back yet again.
As always, and we're joined by two other guests this week. Firstly, I actually have persuaded Pet Love Pet Shop to come on stage and join the talk, even though she's doing our camera work too. So she's doing a double feat here. So welcome, Pet Love. And
multitasking, Pet.
Yeah, don't we all? I'm the one that's not good at it, but never mind. And the special guest, as it were, is I've got to pronounce this right. Pisces. Right, it's La Piscean of AVTV. Hereinafter, we call him Lap because everybody does. Welcome, Lap.
Thank you, Mal. Glad to be on.
Great, it's great to have you here. We have loads of just join in the discussion, but we also have loads of I anyway have loads of little questions to ask you a bit later on. Well, as we mentioned up at the top of the show, one of the highlights of the week, of course, was the 24-hour broadcast. Well, from our point of view, it's the 24-hour broadcast of 1 Billion Rising in Second Life. But of course, 1 Billion Rising was happening in the organic space, so to speak, real world, whatever you want to call it, all over the world. And so it wasn't just our Inworld endeavours that was live. And over and beyond the fact that we broadcasted, of course, there was a hell of a lot going on in World. Those of you who saw Week In Review's opening sequence earlier, if you're actually watching this live, will have seen a wonderful music video around a song called Run by Sam Quandra. Who closed the show in World. Fantastic voice. I was most impressed. So I dug up this video and thought, oh, we got to run that one. But there were about 3 other live acts, and then there were just constant DJs throughout the day, people popping in and dancing, and basically drawing attention to the issue, as indeed Tara said. It wasn't, there was no it wasn't a celebration of anything as such. It was just a way of being up there, saying we're here, we're out there, and drawing attention to the issue, not celebrating it in any way or denying the darker aspects of it. And Safia, I'm going to start with you because you mentioned last week, of course, that there were instances of communities in Second Life that really just felt closeted. They didn't want to come out even to the event. So we arranged for them to have streams fed into their private spaces. So,
right.
we were trying to be totally inclusive and in the spirit of the real world events. So it was a great job there, Safia, wasn't it?
It was. It was highly successful. We had completely packed Sims, so much so that we had the Lindens out quite a lot of the day, trying to make sure they started cleanly. Always a good sign of a good event when you've got about half a dozen Lindens standing around worriedly trying to rescue your Sims. We probably, I was there all day, and people started coming in. We opened an hour early so that there wasn't a kind of whoosh and crashing things when everyone leapt in at the top of the hour. So they had an hour to drift in, and they did. And, when we started, we had a decent number of people on all the Sims, and that carried on all day. It kind of reached a peak. We had something like very close to the 200 that we'd budgeted for, at the top end. We probably had about 180, 170, 180 avatars all dancing. And we had fantastic musicians. The art was there, and people did go and explore it. I spent part of my time dancing next to someone who picked up one of Gracie Kendall's lovely painted skins, which was part of her exhibit. And and she'd picked it up and was wearing it and was dancing next to me at the event, which was fun.
I missed that. I picked up a female avatar on one of the things, but I must have missed that one. That's a shame. Yeah.
There was some. Well, you can actually, if you go over to LEA 15, Gracie's exhibit is still there, and you can actually get the skins there as well. They were one of the sequences when we did the video Break the Chain in Second Life. Grace's was one of the sims we actually went to and danced. That was the art sim where you have the kind of painted avatars dancing.
The psychedelic one, as some people have.
Yes. Although you think you're getting into real psychedelic territory where suddenly you get the fairies coming in.
Yes, it's a unique mishmash, that really. Well, the other thing, of course, we have Pet Love here. Now, Pet Love, wonderful Pet Love. You're the one who, I mean, I know we broadcast it, but you're the one who pulled all the team together to film the event. And you were the one, spectacularly, who did that music video that we saw last week. We have seen constantly throughout the event, and I could probably hum it by now if I tried. It's a wonderful video. You did a wonderful video job on that.
It was.
That's quite a collaboration.
Yeah. People say editing is a lonely business, but I think we've got it down to a collaborative thing.
Well, when it's teams, it makes it so much better. And there is a great thing about the artist being alone and creating the masterpiece and being perfectionist. But somehow, I don't know, I don't feel comfortable doing anything unless I got a team around me. Yeah. And I think the real achievement was the time in which you did it, because, as Lab said, well, I think we're off there when you said it, but it was about 48 hours or so. I mean, just getting that video together, which is an amazing turnover time.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. Oh God, yes. They were lovely. They made the dance. They made the dance, and they supplied like a core of dancers who travel from sim to sim with all the costumes ready, and they would just turn up in the sim. They would change into the costumes. Various other people would come along and join them, maybe just for a single sim, or maybe they'd do 3 or 4 sims. And so we had this rotating team who danced and changed and then went out and then danced again in another place. It was fantastic. And Pet was there with the camera shooting it all. And
I need to interrupt on a technical note. I've just from Tara saying she can't hear Pet Love. introduce us as soon as I see our screen come back up.
I'll just edit it this week now.
And Joel's in the audience, which is nice, right? Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Inworld review, part of the weekend Metaverse Week In review, a live stream. This is our wonderful Inworld chat session. Now, for those of you watching live, you've just seen the wonderful 1 Billion Rising video that was put together by Pet Love Pet Shop. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to repeat myself a little bit here because the reason we had to take a short break was that we lost Pet Love's voice, which hopefully we now have back. So, welcome again, Pet Love.
Thank you.
It's like you've never been away.
I've not been away.
But your voice has. Yeah. So hopefully, yes. Hopefully it's coming.
Well, the folks
you're on the channel, I think, so we're fine. Yeah, I was of course congratulating you on that. But as you say, it was a collaborative effort. You got that whole thing together in 48 hours.
Less than 48 hours, more like 16. The editing part, yeah.
Yeah, it's a long night. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was quite incredible. I realised I was sitting watching it on YouTube, and I said to myself, a week ago I was out scouting locations for this, and hoping the Dazzlers would have the dance ready, and they did. They were amazing.
They were so organized. Yeah. They were just amazing. That's what we were saying. That's what I was saying when I was not speaking properly. But they were so good. They were so organized. They were just fantastic.
They created the dance. Piper Dollinger and Tatiana Curry, two of the Dazzlers. Piper runs the Dazzlers and choreographs them. They created the dance by stitching together different dancers from different animation makers across Second Life into a really smooth, fluid whole. And then we travelled around to all these locations, and the Dazzlers were so professional. They had the costumes, they had the avatars, the looks. They'd change into their costumes, they'd line up and would dance. And there was, and they were supplemented by people who kind of came in each area. And sometimes people would stick with it for 2 or 3 locations, changing their clothes, and then they'd come back and then they'd go. But we always had this wonderful core of Dazzlers doing the dance. It was just,
if they hadn't been as organized and fantastic as they were, a 6-hour shooting day would have been 8 to 10 to 12. Just wrestling and cat herding people and just getting it together. They just saved us all kinds of time by being as good as they were. It was awesome.
And then they were so useful. We did 2 edit sessions, 2 nights in succession, and Piper and Tat sat in on the second part of the second edit session, and it was like when Pet and I were really scratching our heads saying, how do we match this dance with that dance? Because we didn't know it back to front. They did, and they were going like, okay, that bit of the country dance will fit there, and it's like, yes.
Yeah, they were a big help, and they spotted 1 or 2 places where we had used a similar move or the wrong move following. Like, it looked right to us, but it was a different part of the dance that we should have been splicing together, and they spotted 1 or 2 of those for us. They were just totally helpful. They were great, and they stayed up late with us. It was nice.
It was
great.
We share. So take that, real world. How's that for low-cost production and a quick turnaround?
Yeah.
We shared screens over live stream, and it was just a very unique way for a team to collaborate on video production. We've really got a new system down, and I think it was very innovative. It's been wonderful.
We kind of evolved it doing the Black Mirror together. Mm-hmm. And Pet and I are now so we've done this so much, these long nights of editing things, that we can almost talk in shorthand.
That's right.
And so Pet will say something like, well, perhaps I should try, and I'll say, no, that won't work. And other people are going like, what? Why how can you say that? You haven't even. I said, no, I know what she was going to say.
Yeah.
You know,
And then I would turn
tell
around and
us.
do something just as she was saying, maybe we should try this, and I'd already done
Yeah,
it.
you should have done it.
Stuff like
You know,
that. It was
it's
great.
so it's so funny. I've been, I was one of the beta testers for livestream back when they could talk to them, and it hadn't occurred to me really until I saw Sapphire doing Black Mirror that why not use livestream as the actual co-editing sort of system. Obviously on a back channel nobody sees live, but
Right, on a channel that nobody ever watches. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's such an obvious use for it. It just hadn't occurred to me. So
It worked out very, very well.
yeah, and it gives you that sort of whole team spirit, as it were.
You're going to have to be careful now, though, Pet,
Well-
because views by Pet is going to be a name to conjure with
Well,
after the number of hits you've had on
I'm going to
YouTube.
ask Lap to put Views by Pet on A-View, and then we're going to go create another account.
Yeah.
And good luck finding it.
This actually is a really good point to bring Lap in. Actually, the other thing that of course was great. We'll have to give a shout out to everybody actually, but it was Secret Rage who came in, who works closely with Lap to help us with the filming, and it was great to have her slotted into the slot that we had her for, but we couldn't get rid of her. She stayed along and was back up in the studio for ages. She really contributed far more than she'd been asked to. So.
She's a quick study too. She learns quick, and she's very eager to get out there and put into practical application what it is that she has picked up in the collaboration.
Yeah. Well, yeah, she was wonderful. Very much so.
She was great. She picked it up instantly. She was just a quick study is exactly the right way to describe her. And let's give also some kudos to the other people who helped us stream. We had Fuchsia Nightfire, Nino Hartsdale, Emma Way, Geo Meek. We couldn't have done 24 hours without the help of a lot of people, and they just all stood up. They all did more time than they were scheduled for. It was wonderful. At one point, I dozed at the computer, and I said, I gotta go. I'm falling asleep. Luckily, my camera wasn't on the air. I looked up, and it was did you see that? It was bad. I was having a heart attack. So we needed all the help we could get.
Yeah, but actually, even when we were taking our brief naps, people actually took a nap and left their camera on so I could cue it.
Yeah.
all perfect backup, making it, switching cameras and making it a bit more lively than just one camera,
I noticed that Secret had picked up on the technique of locking her cam on a moving object and let it move her cam throughout the crowd. It was quite smooth, and she could get away from it for a second.
I sometimes do that in events. I see an avatar who's moving around all over the place, so I simply option click on them and then sit back and watch the camera move itself. A highly active avatar makes a good guided tour, basically.
What? I was actually in the channel, I had access to the Skype channel, although I didn't really say much as it was going forward, but I was just bowled over by how calm and professional you guys were throughout the day. I'd just look at that channel in passing, as I was sorting out stuff on the ground, and it would be like, Emma, you ready? Can you take the camera? Geo, could you move your camera there? Okay, going live now. You're live. And it was all done in text back because the cameras were live, obviously. But it was just so professional. I was completely bowled over by it.
Oh.
I got to give kudos to Mal because it's really intensive. It's resource intensive. It's mind intensive. To direct a studio with multiple cameras and the problems that would occur or arise on the fly. Mao is a real professional at maintaining that and handling that and choreographing that all into something that looks smooth on the set.
When I knew Mal was going to be there, I was relieved. I was really happy. Because we would have managed, but Mal just makes everything run so very well. It was great. So yeah, it
It's
was
been
good.
fantastic working with you guys on the Relay for Life telethon each year. So I knew you could do it, but I knew also it was short notice, and it's never easy to pull off. I mean, but wow, wow, you were just so rock solid with it. It was fantastic.
I don't know what to say. Thank you.
No, it's true.
It was a pleasure. It was absolutely great to do it. And the nice thing, of course, was Lap here. I mean, who came in? I think you were watching the show last week, weren't you, Lap? And said, "Oh, I'll run a feed a bit to AVTV."
Mm.
So we had it there, and a few of those private sims had it too. The ones where people didn't want to come to the public ones. So it was great. We were sort of
Yeah,
everywhere.
I was watching you guys talk about it on your show, and I thought, I'd really like to help out if I could with that, and so Pat and Emo were really gracious in teaching Secret the ins and outs of working in the studio and whatnot. And we promoted it live on a View TV, and on the front page of a View TV was links to the Inworld 1 billion rising blog. And yeah, it was a pleasure being involved with that, and I had a lot of fun over on the Sims dancing too. I had a really good time. It was kind of solemn at times, and it was kind of vibrant at times. It was a lot of mixed emotions going on over there, but all in all, I had a really good time.
Yeah, I mean, just because it was a lot of dancing and everything else did not mean it wasn't serious, which is
And dance was the way that was chosen to celebrate and call attention to the cause. I think the trick now, though, is how do we carry this through the year until the next one? Like I'd like to see this be the snowball that turns into an avalanche. We all would, and I hope that
Wow.
it gains notoriety. You have plans, Safia?
Well, I was just going to say that behind here is a kiosk. These were the kiosks, much bigger, that were put out at 1 billion rising. I hope that we can actually distribute them because they're packed with information like
Very nice.
like note cards about domestic violence issues. They've got useful addresses. We had people working on research to back everything up and to give information. We've got these kiosks, and I think we could probably put them out across the grid. If people wanted them, we could give them. I don't think there are that many prims.
They would look great at any shopping mall. They would look wonderful next to any door front. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. They have a land impact of 6, so they're not huge, and we could set them up so that they have all the relevant information. Well, not all the relevant information. We could even grow information over time.
Sure.
But then there would be a way of people getting help easily as a legacy of 1 billion.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Really good.
Yeah.
Must have been actually. I've only just looked at the second live screen and seen it there. But that's great. We can plunk one down near the entrance afterwards.
Good idea.
What I'd like to do now, if we can, is turn back to Lap actually, because I'm really pleased you hear that. I've watched AVTV for some time, and it's I'd actually just like to talk a bit about it. I mean, in one respect, I sort of saw it like a YouTube for Inworld Machinima. And then, of course, I know you've worked with Chantal Harvey quite a lot on her events, where you've actually, put on the Inworld broadcast side of it, and you think you actually did quite a lot. So, I thought maybe you'd like to tell us sort of just, briefly what all the things you're doing, if you would.
Okay, well, 7 years briefly. It kind of started out as a way to. I don't do anything myself. First off, let me say that I just let other people do what they do well, and I provide some space and some guidance maybe with some newer people and things like that. But if it weren't for the artists, and the filmmakers, there wouldn't be an View TV. And if it weren't for the people that helped me behind the scenes, like Pet Love and Secret, and there's been a host of them, and a lot of collaborations, that it'd be all dead in the water. Um, it wouldn't be anything. So first off, let me say that all the credit to View TV is in the community itself. They kind of pulled together and collaborated with a common goal that I had when I started a View TV, and that was to try and take the art and the artists to a more mainstream level. Bring it kind of like out of Second Life and into the world. Future plans for a View, like will include internet TV so that you can watch Second Life Machinima on your television sets. We're in development right now of a new CMS for the site. It's an open source CMS that we're built on right now called PHP Motion. But we're designing and building our own CMS for some obvious reasons there. And so we have a lot of expansion ideas, and now we stream about 1,700 videos Inworld from View TV for various events. I'm also a committee member in the LEA, and the LEA has a program over there once a month called MOMAC, and that's a month of machinima. We do screenings and highlight some of the artists in Second Life.
I came over to your new build with, you had Miles the 11th hour. I think he was just DJing at the time, and it was very late for me. But there's an amazing build with all those screens and a floor that, well, not a floor.
There's a great. Sorry, Lab.
It's some neat features. Like when you first land on the parcel, if you'll turn your video and your audio on, you just turn all media on, especially at midnight. The building is such a beautiful thing with its laser displays on the building wall, on the outside of the building, and things like that. And the music is really good over there. And then aside from that, there's a screen for every letter in the alphabet. And this is the Videopathic Machinima Gallery. I'm sorry, that's what we call it, Videopathic Machinima Gallery. And so if you go to any particular screen, like she mentioned, Miles' 11th Hour, if you wanted to see the films that Miles made, you would just go to the M screen. And you touch the frame, and it gives a list of all the artists in there that begin with M, and you just click on Miles' name, and then it'll bring you up the list of Miles' machinima. So that's been a real hit, and we just now switched over to high definition. For a long time in Second Life, the bandwidth and the different viewers made it hard to maintain a shared experience in Second Life. And that was one of the main things about Second Life that was in the dream or in the vision, that the whole community could have a shared experience. But with the onset of custom viewers and different viewers, once they released the viewer code there, that kind of busted up that shared experience, because some people could see things other people couldn't see things.
And in different times. Yes, it's funny, we were all begging for media on the Prim, but of course it worked.
Well, it's
it
very
worked fine,
useful.
It's
very useful.
It's made it quite obsolete, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, it takes a little technique to get used to using shared media and parcel media together. Maybe a quick explanation. Parcel media is where you're playing a stream and it's being heard and seen all over the whole parcel. And shared media is for the individual. Let's say you and I both were looking at that screen there that you say, click to play. Well, if I click it, I can watch it. If you don't click it, you're not seeing anything. Yeah. So that's the thing about shared media. It's an individual media, but it has a lot of assets. Like I could put a 200 face choir all in the same parcel, all on separate streams, all on a separate Prim, and you'd have all 200 faces of the choir singing. If there's, should there be a webcam on each of those, and then they're broadcasting, then we can put all those cameras there.
Yeah.
And so, but of UTV, that's what it's about. It's about the community, and it's about promoting the art and the artists, and trying to get that promotion out to the mainstream media.
I can see we have quite a bit to probably sort that offline at some point because Metaverse broadcasting is very much geared less to broadcast per se as aggregation of what's available, just finding out what's available and bringing it out there, hopefully to the greater web. But in our main program at the beginning, I mentioned this week a new viewer, for example, that is being built for which will work with open simulators, and it's built on HTML5 code, which means that you'll be able to open Chrome, Firefox, or whatever, and actually go into open simulator, sorry, via the web. But because it's HTML, it's universal platforms. It means it will work on Android, it will work on the iPad, and it's not a downloadable viewer per se like we used to have. It's literally written in the new HTML language, and I'm woefully neglectful actually of our MBTV player because it simply loads embedded streams in Flash format. And of course, the moment I go to the iPad and try and watch it,
Right.
oops, it doesn't work. Get the
Well,
lights
the
mobile.
new CMS that we're building will
Yeah.
be HTML5 and Red 5 compliant. And you were mentioning that Spot on 3D, Mr. Lieberman and Teresa Harrington, I think her name are, they kind of head up that grid over there. That they have a nice web plugin like that makes going onto their grid, feasible from a web browser.
They actually use a rather Pelican Crossing of IBM actually is initiated what they are now purporting to use. Basically you're still downloading a viewer, and what you see on the web page is simply loading the viewer in a kind of HTML wrapper.
Right.
That's the HTML5.
It's container.
The HTML5 literally draws the canvas straight onto a web page. It doesn't need a separate plugin or application running in the background. Which I think it's a feature, and this pixel viewer one actually sounds great because it will be hypergrid enabled. So you'll be able to log into Joy Arcadia Grid and then hypergrid over to Franco Grid, or whatever you want to do really.
Right, and I like the fallback properties of HTML5 with media, so that you're not always getting stuck for having to show it in Flash or show it in MP4 or show it, because the fallback on the media will, use a player that will show it.
Yeah, it finds the right codec and just whatever it's called, and just goes with it. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I mean, bringing Sapphire back in, for example, because Sapphire's a company. Is it 3 or 4 different programs as well as designing worlds now? I mean, obviously I work closely with NBC too, with Duzo, and we have so many of these programs, and all this technology is just going to advance our cause.
I think so.
Get it to a wider audience.
We're actually planning on doing a Designing World show in Cloud Party in the near future, which I think will be quite interesting, because that's actually gone very quiet. For a time, everyone was talking about Cloud Party, and Cloud Party was the new black, really. Everyone was going to wear it. And it's gone rather quiet. So we're actually going to go and take a look at it and see what it's like.
It seems to, from what I can tell, I must admit I've only used it a couple of times, mostly because I'm not that keen on Facebook, though you can get in it independently now. Yeah, I kind of liked it, and I think there's still a hardcore of people like getting the feeds and stuff promoting it. So I think it's just one of those things, the buzz, the initial buzz.
Yeah, that's worn off.
The good thing is the initial buzz was big, and there are actually, it was big enough to means that they've retained a nice hardcore group of users who are bringing it forward. So yes, I like that party actually. Again, it needs a plug-in of sorts, but it's good. It's a good thing, so to speak.
Well, in our new CMS, we're going to the clouds too with distribution to like an array of smaller servers with solid state drives that are really quick,
Yeah.
and doing our distribution from the cloud.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Oh, that's great. I'd like to point something out. Sorry,
Yeah.
that a lot of people don't know, and that is that Lepaisian here is a heck of an innovator. Some of the software systems and some of the things that you've developed, Lap, are really unique for the to designed to bring the virtual worlds together and the real world too. And you should get credit for that. You're not one to beat your own drum.
No, well, here again, all that stuff comes from necessity, not so much
See?
that I just dreamed it up. It's
Yeah.
what I needed to accomplish what I was doing as far as putting on events and that kind of thing, like the 80-1000 media switching system. That way you can switch your media across multiple sims or across multiple parcels all at the same time without people having to toggle or even have to turn their media on. You can turn it on for them, you can turn it off for them, and that's the way I control an event, like MoMAC or something. When I'm putting on an event like the UWA or 48-hour film project, or when I put on these events, this is what I use to make it like seamless, or to work in real time with the host or hostess, what's going on there, and then everybody has a shared experience. Anybody can view it in any viewer, doesn't make any difference, and everybody starts and stops at the same time, so they're all on the same page.
That's what we need for happy hunting. On those days.
But those are
Yes.
in-world innovations, and here again, I can't take credit for anything but design on that. Actually, there's a scripter in-world by the name of Rumble Arboa, who is an ace, in my opinion, probably one of the best scripters in Second Life. And ever since the inception of a View TV, Rumble has worked very closely with me on developing things that I dream it up and he makes it happen. So I get credit for designing what's needed, but he gets credit for actually building it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
A small but vital step. Yeah.
This is very true, I think I'm also one of these people that comes up with the bright idea and then oops, it doesn't work, So then
I can't make this work.
I've got to make this work, but it's rarely you that does it, and you got to think of this code and just have to find a way.
Right. And this guy's fabulous. I mean, he writes code as I talk.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a typist would take dictation. This guy
That's
is
awesome.
so good that he can code while you're describing it.
Oh, wonderful!
Brilliant.
Oh, yes, I want someone like that. That's an amazing talent. Yeah.
And I've got. You'll notice on a View TV, I don't take advertising. There's no ads on a View TV except for what I put on there. Members do have the option of adding Google AdSense to their own accounts, and when someone plays their videos, then they will get credit for that. But aside from that, I don't take advertising, except for the things that I'm involved with in the world, like cutting edge concerts. But I put Rumble's shingle on the site because he is one of the best scripters in Second Life. And if you're looking for professional business equipment or that kind of thing, then that's definitely a guy to contact.
Great.
Right.
We're all going to be busy again.
He'll thank you for that, Lap. Mm-hmm.
That's great. Advertising is one of those sort of. It's hard to know actually how to handle it in Second Life. I mean, one of the streams you've seen on the walls here, for example, the lifestyle one, there's quite a lot of ads, but they're not paid. What I do is I stick them in there as a prototype, and say, obviously if people want to start paying, fine, but you just add them into the stream. On the other hand, as Safi will tell you, there's programs where the best strategy is actually to have a break and embed the adverts in the program itself. That way you can distribute the program widely.
Mm-hmm. You do a pre-roll or post-roll or mid-roll ad or something like that, but I try not to do that with the films. YouTube's bad enough at it itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, those.
That's
Those
true.
And so we don't have those Inworld, but um, but yeah, that's a better way to go than plastering the site with it. Like I've said in Twitter before, there's not a whole lot to read on UTV, but there sure is one heck of a lot to see.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing.
I think with designing worlds, we are going for the verisimilitude of a TV program. And one of the things that helps us create that is actually having a commercial break.
Mm-hmm.
That, people expect TV programs to have commercial breaks. Unless, of course, they watch the BBC in the UK. But, but
well, you remember when cable first come out, the big promise is you could watch television without all the ads. Well, that didn't really last too long. First they started advertising themselves, which isn't kind of like the same thing. And they were advertising their programming, which isn't kind of like the same thing. But then as time went on, even the cable networks, brought in advertising anyway.
They did.
Yeah, it's inevitable. I mean, the BBC is really an exception. I was discussing this with somebody last night, I think. I mean, I was watching something on TV. I rarely watch TV, but I'd recorded something, and I was getting annoyed every 10 minutes. There was another ad break, and I had to put the fast forward button on it, and it was really accepting my concentration. I was getting really.
I think CNN is the worst. I mean, if you're an avid watcher of CNN, the actual programming time in there versus advertising time is really small there. But yeah.
To be in the
I kind of picture myself more like a Netflix, where you're giving the people an alternative to that. You can just watch the films that you want to watch.
Mm-hmm. It's much better.
Video on demand is really going to take over, I think.
I hope so.
Yes. I think.
But you'll still have to have your mainstream programming to promote what they can select and watch. You know what I mean? They won't know it's there unless you tell them. And
this is the dodgy thing though. It's like big media moving into the internet. I've got these boxes, be they Android or just terrestrial TV boxes, and they get you on the web. And they take you the material you can stream from the web, but it's all moving towards the broadcaster's menu system, and it reminds me of voting for politicians, if I'm a vegetarian and I go into the restaurant, I may have a choice of 3 dishes, but if they're all beef dishes, it doesn't really help.
Well, we'd kind of be all machinima dishes, I think, in our network anyway, but...
well, yeah, that's an improvement.
Hopefully the indie channels will still survive.
But that's a channel within itself, that's a network within itself, so...
Right.
There's a place for it.
Yeah.
As long as there are no commercials that are all about the drugs that will stop you from dying, and then have all the disclaimers that different parts of the side effects could kill you, but it's worth taking the drug. The ads that we have to watch are so awful, and that's why things like a View TV and internet channels, MBTV Treat, and Netflix, we need to have alternatives. I hope there are always alternatives.
Well, I also think you just reminded me of this really, because I experienced this back in the days of publishing, and particularly comic books and things. If I had to have ads, I wanted them coming from the readers, the viewers community. In other words, I wanted the ad to be relevant to the content that people are otherwise reading or watching.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
And that way, I don't think people mind, because the ad break, as it were, or whatever, is a plus for somebody watching that channel anyway. But it's when something else, totally unrelated, is stuck into the ad.
It's
like jarring.
Keeping the money in the family too, so to speak. You're supporting yourselves and you're supporting each other, and that's what helps make the community grow as a whole.
Yeah. It's like an economy in microcosm, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on from all our tech talk a bit here, actually. I think there might be a limit to the number of viewers who are super interested in the backgrounds. I mean, it is just wonderful, dear viewers, that we can bring this to you. The technology exists and it is just getting better. So that is the great thing. Other things this week. I'm going to move back to Safia briefly because I did notice you made a few comments on in Prim Perfect that maybe you'd like to make concisely again about events that not changing things people do. But also, and I know you're really on the lighter side of things. I know you and Tara and lots of other people are really fond of kitty hats. And I got a blog yesterday, and I realised that it's a happy birthday for the kitty cats.
Yes, the kitty cats are 2 years old, and they've brought out, I don't know if Tara talked about this, I bet she did, the Megapus.
Oh yeah, she's got 3 now.
Oh, how did she do that? I haven't got one. She must be breeding them so fast.
I'm not sure, but I do gather that one of them, the latest one, she might be putting up for auction. So
no, I wouldn't be able to afford that. I'm just going to have to keep persuading my kitties that they want to pop out a Megapus.
That's interesting. I was suspicious that it was producing rather a lot of them all of a sudden, but okay.
She's obviously getting the good hormones directly from cows.
Okay, she's got a database of breeding information. So.
those are some big cats. I'll tell you, I would take a Geiger counter with me if I were going.
Attack of the 50-foot.
I have a clip of which I haven't shown, unfortunately. I'll have to upload it. But I have a clip of Tara cuddling one of her megapussies just after I think it had reached full height. You know, it was a very nice looking cat, but you couldn't see much of Tara.
Wow.
Anyway, they're on the 2nd birthday, and I gather that you can get 2 free cats for the birthday.
I believe so, yeah.
One of them, I think, you can pick up free from Kitty Cat's main store, and then the other one, you actually have to go around 12 stores to collect the tokens, as it were, and they're able to get the second one. So they made a bit of a sort of hunt out of it too. It's kind of nice. I like it.
Yes, that's your. I know how fond you are of hunting.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of my few methods of relaxing in Second Life. You know, all the rest of the time I seem to be filming or following news or.
Have you done the Mad P one yet?
I haven't done the new one. In fact, I'm rather hoping we can get what's her name, Kira. Is it Kira? I think.
Kiana Writer.
Yes. I'm rather hoping to get her on one of our future shows here, actually. So. Yeah.
We should love to come, I'm sure. Yeah. Do you want me to have a word?
Yes, you can too. Yes. Yeah, we all love the virtual critters. Yeah, and they seem to be becoming quite big. Of course, we have Strangelings on the iPad now, which they're releasing updates. So that's actually in beta. It's in test pilot, but the idea is taking this virtual pet thing that we have in places like Second Life and then pushing that out to the iPad and presumably the greater web. So yeah.
That'd be interesting, yes, definitely.
And
of course, you've got the Tiny's developers still working on their concept of taking Tiny Life outside. But then they're not using Second Life to do it, which I think is a shame.
Yes.
I want to see more things that actually use Second Life to take it to the outworld.
I think so. I think one of the nice things about Strangelings, I mean, which is not public yet, and to be honest, I've been forced into tears. I'm not really quite into breeding pets to that extent, but I think the nice thing is that they maintain a full sim in Second Life, Strangelings as well. Yeah. So there is, they can take the web and the iPad thing and say go to Second Life and visit the sim, and they can tell people in Second Life to go and download the app. So they've got that nice sort of interconnection.
That's probably the single biggest thing that Linden Labs could do to help themselves is to, film is one way of getting the art out to the outside world and broadcasting and that sort of thing, and also a means of bringing the outside world into Second Life. But aside from that, I think more importantly that you're right on target with that. They need to become more access. You know, content is king, but access rules. Whether it's your iPad, whatever device, you know, if the content won't mean nothing if you can't get at it, if you can't view it, if you can't see it. So access kind of rules the internet. I mean, just ask Google. So, you know, that's the thing you need to kind of focus on when you're trying to get Second Life out to the outside world, is that access. And having said that, then normally if I can go to my Facebook and I can click and bang, I'm in Second Life, watch the numbers jump.
That would be great. That would be really great. Indeed.
Access is the key.
Okay.
But they go. I think for me they go hand in hand, because once you've cracked access, you've got to have some bloody good content behind
Oh
it.
God, of course, yeah.
Oh, true. Yeah, content is king. There's no doubt about that. Even if it's free, and most of the content on the internet is free, it's still king. There's no doubt about that. If you don't have the content, you don't have a show.
Well, talking of content, we may have a little additional content for you. We are going to take, no, not a commercial break. But we are
That
taking
content now.
Now you see how useful they are. Now you see why.
Yes, this is where they're coming useful, but they don't need to be commercial. I'm actually going to run a little 12-minute clip all about an Inworld thing called Topophonia. It's a sort of interactive music project going on in World. While we're doing that, we're also going to try to bring Joel Foner, who's a regular in our organic studio, into the studio here to join us in World, and we'll get on with just having a roundup of various things. So.
Should we refire Joel's call real quick, because he's breaking up because of his bandwidth?
Okay, if you want, yeah.
All right. Whose call is this?
Oh, hang on. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the third half of the Inworld review. Well, it's not the third trilogy bit, really, isn't it? It's only the half. But while all that was happening, we've been joined by a regular friend of the channel here, and that's Joel Foner. Welcome, Joel.
Hi, Mel. I hope I'm here. Am I?
You indeed. Yes, indeed you are. It was a hasty turnaround, but we do have you. And yeah, we're used to seeing your organic face on this channel, but I think we've had the touch of you in the Inworld bit before, so welcome. How are things with you, Joel?
Doing great, except I'll have to apologize for I'm in the process of pretending my way out of a cold, so if I cough before hitting mute, it's an accident.
I know that one.
So no, things are going great. We just got our second storm in a week, so we did a little shoveling this morning. But no, other than that, things are fine. So yeah, I actually had a couple of thoughts, and this is, I think Mal and others may be used to some stuff from left field into the discussion. I've been thinking these days, we were talking about Inworld and social and communities and how the communities drive things. And there's the long-term discussion about how to get more people involved and why people feel the way they do about virtual worlds. And I just had this thought that was brought on by actually a long discussion with somebody I know from Facebook, who is in the camp of having, if you were to describe their gender role in Facebook terms, it would say it's complicated. So what's kind of interesting is that they decided to change their name on Facebook first, as a way of exploring changing their name in real life, and then followed that a month or two later by changing their name in real life. And that I thought was really interesting, because it suggests to me that in some ways, at least some people, think about even things like Facebook as a virtual world, although it's not as obvious. There have also been some articles lately where people are talking about people's digital persona these days. You know, how they present on Facebook, how they present on Twitter, how they present on LinkedIn, as being enough disconnected from their real persona and being a projection of how they want to be perceived, that from a psychology perspective, it's essentially a virtual world. Including a psychologist who said that he's having more troubles with people who are so used to projecting this alternate persona that they have more problems connecting with their real issues and real thoughts when he sits down to talk to them about dealing with the rest of their lives. And I just thought that was
This is really interesting because, I mean, I, for example, when I first came to Second Life, I mean, I got annoyed that I couldn't get my real name back in those days because I never saw the distinction. But you know, my name is part of me, you know, and it is actually known to people, so the more reason for keeping it. But I wonder if in this example you're giving me, it was somebody who wanted an easier name, like that could become a brand or something like that.
Well, it was actually, in particular, it was somebody who's been exploring gender issues, and you know, sort of identifies as not necessarily the opposite gender from what she is, but sort of flip back and forth. And so this name change was really about finding a name that was more gender neutral to avoid being so tightly recognized as one gender.
Well, this is rather interesting.
Like Pat.
It kind of falls back on the OBR and stuff here. I mean, you know, you have a name like Leslie, for example.
Chris.
Even Chris. Yeah, there are lots of names that are gender neutral and probably are quite helpful to have. For example, if you don't want to become a man, but you're a woman that doesn't want to be necessarily easily associated with being a woman, you just want to be neutral, then you choose Leslie or something. It's just sort of
right. And
I can.
It was almost like people who decide to pick alternate avatars in a Second Life environment. But it sounds to me like the same psychology, and it makes me wonder how differently people actually perceive these different things at their core.
I can tell you that I actually have a complete online persona that's gender neutral that was quite well known in certain circles. And that was the result of when, back in the mid-90s, when I was doing electronic media MA and we were just starting to go on the net, we were advised on the course that we should select a gender-neutral profile because of the risk of cyberstalking. There were far fewer people on the net at that point. So I adopted the name Mel, M-E-L. And then I could tell people, depending on how they responded to me, that it was short for Melvin or for Melanie. And after a while, I needed a surname, so I acquired the surname Mason. And in gaming circles, PBEMs, I'm still known as Mel Mason, which isn't my real life name. It's completely different. You know, it's a different surname.
That's kind of funny because in the 7 years that I've been in Second Life, I don't think this is unique to me, but I never really looked at profiles because I always thought in the back of my mind, anybody can say or project anything they want to in a profile, so I never paid any attention to profiles. Even when talking to people or even collaborating with people, I never bothered to look at their profile, not to see how long they've been here, to see what their interests or picks were or anything. It was disconcerting because every avatar on the grid seems to be artificial intelligence until you get to know that person individually, either by voice or through close collaboration or video chat or some means by which you get to know this person on a real intelligence basis. So, having said that everybody is artificial intelligence until you know them, you develop what I call this international character, where you address everybody pretty much in the same manner, and you try to do that in the most helpful way that you can. There's always language barriers and things like that, but if you and the technique that I used to develop this character was I simply pretended that everybody I ran into was a Linden in disguise. And I wanted to impress the Lindens. I'm new here on the grid, and I want to make sure I'm doing everything like I'm supposed to. And I never knew if a real Linden was in disguise or not. Nobody does, and they could throw themselves right in a crowd or anything to see how the community is doing, handling this or that. And I'm sure they probably do some of that. So I developed this technique where everybody's a Linden until I know them differently, and I just address them and collaborate accordingly, never having to look at their profile, never having to know what gender they are. It made no difference. In fact, I only got two genders, hun and bro. If it's a guy, it's a bro. If it's a girl, it's a hun. And, that's kind of how I went through Second Life.
That's a good idea. That's really not bad advice.
I mean, I guess one of the questions I wonder about is if people think about these things as not so different, could it be that many people use these other tools for some of the same things we talk about, using things like Second Life, or in terms of having an alternate outlet to explore personality and relationships and things like that, and that for them, they actually get out of it what people in virtual worlds get out of virtual worlds, even though they're not 3D with avatars?
Well, I think it's expressionism, isn't it? I think one of the beauties of Second Life and the Metaverse is the richness of the environment in which you're projecting yourself. And I wouldn't compare Facebook to that because I don't think it's a rich environment. But on the other hand, people online in any form are to a certain extent expressing themselves. And whether that expression is of the want to be or the I am is something you can never know. There are people who aren't happy with themselves, but who are happy with themselves online because they project themselves, they express themselves as they really want to, even though they may be living in circumstances where they're not free to express themselves properly, authentically. Sorry, is the word I should use.
Sure.
So, I think it is down to expressionism. That's one of the reasons I asked you about your friend changing their name. Was it to have an easier brand name or something that people would recognize? There can be a number of different reasons people choose their online identity to be something to a certain extent removed from their organic self. And there's equally good reasons why people have the two tied together and just use it to express themselves.
Yeah.
So, certainly you get a lot of, now we have musicians and artists and businessmen on Facebook, take Rupert Murdoch. He does Twitters now and again or everything. He got a bit of, I don't like Murdoch, but he got a lot of flack for it at one point. And there's something about it. You don't quite know whether that Twitter is coming from Murdoch, the empire overlord, or whether it's coming from him as a person.
Exactly. Exactly.
If the two are not the same.
Well, doesn't President Obama do the same thing now? He goes on Facebook sometimes and reaches out,
Yeah, same on Twitter. Obama's wife's on Twitter, and apparently the only way if you see a Twitter on her stream, it's from her crew, the staff. But if it's a Twitter she's produced herself, it's got a little prefix in it from FMO or something from Michelle Obama. So you can tell which are her personal ones and which are the ones from her staff, but all on the same stream.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess I was kind of, I'm not trying to say that they're equivalent in value for everybody, but I guess I'm just where I'm coming from on this is the internal psychology view of the person who's involved in it, as opposed to what it looks like from the outside. And if you were to spin something like Facebook, for instance, and say, well, for a Facebook user, the virtual world is not, the projection is not so much the avatar and the clothes you pick, but it's every profile picture you post, every picture you post, every check-in, every video, every comment, that the sequence of those things for some people is very carefully crafted to present essentially an avatar.
Yeah.
A
I
persona. Yeah.
Yeah, an alter ego, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So in any case, it's one of those things I've been musing about lately.
If when we die, that great book in heaven that has our life written in it and everything we've done and all that, I think it would probably be Facebook. that they're referring to.
God uses Facebook. God's on Facebook. Okay.
I'm in two minds here. I'm kind of hoping I might be able to hang on just for long enough that I can upload myself.
But that personality, that personality thing that Joel was talking about earlier, I have visioned that, let's say for an example, you wake to find no internet at all. You know, the heck with social networking, no internet, period. I think as dismal a day as it would be in the separation of man, I don't think it would be nearly as dismal as the separation of man from himself. He has become so attuned to the computer and to the connection with the outside world that he has put all of himself into it. And any severing of this internet connection is going to be detrimental to the man and his own identity.
I think so too. I mean, not exclusively. I mean, there are people who still just use the internet to pick up email and look up a web page. But you're right. I mean, for people like us, I think all of us here, it's a right arm. It's like having an arm chopped off if you lose the internet. You can cope with the real world, but it's just not the same if you can't communicate with the entire world.
Yeah. One thing, just as an example, we finally, after years and years and years, got together to do a big family vacation. We went on a windjammer in the Caribbean for a week, which was just awesome. But it was also the first time in my memory that I spent a week in a place where it wasn't technically possible to be on the net for almost an entire week.
Okay.
And so, it was a different experience. And just as we were leaving the dock, the boat, the ship, this was not a big cruise ship. It was, 35 passengers, 20 crew. It was actually really cool. But there was a cluster of people at the stern of the ship, all huddled around with their iPhones and their iPads, talking about who could get clean Wi-Fi and who couldn't, and who could get a connection. And
starved for it.
About to go.
Well, I think that the internet has brought back what television took away. Originally, I see where TV took us out of the barn warmings and the community dances and shaking hands and touching one another, and locked us up in our house in front of a screen to begin with. Mm-hmm. And we lost that sense of dealing with people on a real basis due to the television. And I think now the internet has probably eased some of that separation by letting us reach out and touch one another again.
That's true.
I think the thing about TV is that really it's the ultimate passive medium. We sit and we consume it, and our choices and our interactivity is limited to clicking the remote. Now, it's really interesting. If you look at the history of radio, the first radio started with shortwave radio, and it was a two-way medium. And people communicated and reached out. And if you go back to the beginning of radio, there's lots of sort of worried articles in newspapers and magazines about how they're so worried about kids fishing on the airwaves. Particularly boys on their own in their rooms, spending all their time fishing using the shortwave radio. That was the verb they used, to fish the waves, which compares, of course, with surfing the waves in more recent times, surfing the net. But that changed.
In the trucking industry, that still goes on.
Yes, in that earlier interactivity changed, and you had the big stations broadcasting, and people passively consuming the radio, and even more so when it was the television, because with the radio you could be walking around listening to it and doing other things, but with TV you had to sit down and consume it passively. And of course then when you get the net, we're moving back to a more interactive form of media. And but it's strange because quite often we are tied to sitting in front of our PC screens, as I am now, to do this. But I can make all sorts of choices that I couldn't with a passive TV program. I can choose to jump up and run around here. I can choose to quit. I can choose, I can choose to go and climb a tree.
For me is I can sit in my pajamas. I can drink my coffee. I don't have to hurry up and rush and get in the car and get it warmed up because it's cold because I got to get to the office. And look at the time I save in air travel by collaborating in Second Life. The cost of getting there to say what I'm going to say right now. And it's just amazing. So it's been so beneficial to intertwine the internet with your real life, being. And as far as an avatar goes, I find, or at least in myself, I'm pretty much the same person, as Lap as I am as Fred Walton in real life. So it doesn't get harder. It's not something you really have to do. It's just come in and be yourself, and you'll adapt. People have a high adaptivity capacity to this kind of thing once they're in it. It's that access. It's getting them in. Once they're in, they'll be fine. It's getting them in.
I have a habit of referring to shows like this as picture radio, because to me they work if you are watching, and they also convey the virtual world. But also, if you want to wander around, you can listen to them. And I'm often in Second Life, for example. We move the conversation to Skype because then I can walk around the room and just leave my avatar parked. I mean, if I want to do something, I come back to the avatar. But I can go and lie down rather than sitting at the workstation and things like that. And it's empowering to say the least.
It gives real teeth to multitasking.
Yeah, to that point, and I guess I'll out myself, as it were. I was a Linden back when I know that. I made a big push several times to try to get us to do real-time connections to really lightweight stuff, like having a real-time connection to Skype for that reason, or to telephone. The background noise, sorry, is I'm at a coffee shop. I think one of the problems here is that it's so hard to accommodate this idea, as Mal said, of just sort of jumping off but still being sort of involved. I often wonder what virtual worlds would be like if you could natively, automatically just jump to Skype and still be part of it. And that way you can wander around on your phone wherever you want to be in the world, even if you're not at a computer.
You might not remember this, Joel, actually, although you were at the lab at the time. Hang on, I think it was IBM. It must have been Sun. One of the bigger tech companies actually had, it wasn't Skype themselves, but they had a widget in Inworld, and this was before Second Life Voice, where you wore the widget and it was a Skype telephone. And and you could even ring people that weren't on your friends list. In other words, somebody could ring you in World using Skype.
I've got that. I forgot what that's called too.
Yeah, I've still got it. Yeah, so I don't use it anymore, but
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Me too.
And Fab, although it wasn't, it did have voice. I mean, one of the things, and I mentioned this at the top of the show today, oddly enough. One of the things I really missed that Linden Labs got rid of, and I never understood why, was the VVox Messenger that they had for a while, because I could be out of World and I could still IM people in World, and it was run by VVox, so I could also voice them.
Yeah.
So that to me was the, you're either, at the moment we're in world or we're out, unless we actually open the Skype conversation. But that was the natural start of a bridge between the virtual and the real.
Yeah.
I got rid of it. I don't know why. Maybe you do.
Well, I really think that it should have been a part of the operating system. In fact, not just the communication, but the whole grid itself. I think an operating system, when you boot up, should have your own SIM, your own grid, with access or, with the controls that and whatnot. It might be a little advanced for people to begin with, but I think as part of a computer operating system to have a 3D platform, the minute you boot up, you're on grid. You're on your own grid.
It's funny. Once upon a time on the Metanomics show, there was a guest from Microsoft, and I actually specifically asked him, through Bayers, about, because they were saying, well, we like these virtual worlds and whatever. But I said, was there any plan, to have a future version of Windows where the desktop would become rooms or spaces? And it was a kind of who knows maybe was about the only reply I sort of got from that. But with OpenSim, now you can have your own OpenSim installation on your own hard drive. You can hypergrid enable it, so that you can log into any hypergrid enabled grid from it. And there's nothing to say that you can't just stick that local installation in your startup. So at the moment your Windows or whatever boots, then the first thing that opens on screen is your private virtual environment with doors or whatever you want to build that then lead to other grids. And I love the idea of changing the.
Well, we did that early on our own grids. Mojo Matthews, another Second Life resident, and myself, we built some grids on our own computer, but we found that in the permissions of hypergridding, we kind of had like a rule of thumb to keep your hands in your pocket. And anything you pull out of your inventory on somebody else's grid is then on their asset servers or on their databases. And you stand the chance of, losing a lot of your stuff that way
that's actually...
and you might not mean to share those resources, or you might not want those scripts on that person's grid. So one rule of thumb there, and I think inhibited a lot of hypergridding, was that, that you had to be careful where you went and how you went and what you did when you got there.
That's actually changed a lot with the OpenSim code base now. I mean, the permission systems and everything are really tightened up. So you can collect stuff from other grids, bring them back to your home grid or whatever, but only if the permissions are set. And the same with stuff you carry around. It never goes to the inventory of to the asset server of another grid. One of the things, of course, people in OpenSim really want is an independent asset server that can work across grids but still offer the security to the individual for their assets. But I think all that will come. Now, I hate to butt in again. This has been an absolutely great conversation, but we've been running it for quite a while. I know Sapphire has to go shortly. And I did want to get back to Sapphire particularly because there's two things that come up. One is that Sapphire has done a two-parter so far on her blog titled Events Don't Change Things, People Do. And also I want to then move on after that to Pet Love because, we have a rather sad announcement to make about Sim closing. But maybe I'll start with Sapphire and the blog, if I may.
Yeah, sure. We've had because of 1 billion writings, been various criticisms right from the point at which we set it up, which we weren't entirely surprised about. Inevitably, when you get involved in issues relating to women, the first thing that you're asked is, well, why are you doing this about women? Why aren't you doing it about men too? This is a problem that affects men as well as women, so why aren't you doing it? And very early on, I did a blog post about this, and I said that, if you do a campaign to raise awareness about prostate cancer, you're not saying that breast cancer doesn't exist or isn't a problem. And if you support Relay for Life, you're not saying that heart attacks aren't a problem. You can take a specific focus and follow it. And we were taking the focus of violence against women and following that. And that was okay. That actually kind of calmed down a lot of the why aren't you doing it about men too questions and posts. After the event, there's been some other criticisms made of it, that the dancing was inappropriate, that it was silly, that it was a bunch of middle class women being self-indulgent, and it didn't really have any impact in the real world. And
What terrible
why
things to
should we
say.
be doing it?
That's just terrible.
Well,
you
yeah,
would have
some
had to
people
have changed
feel
the
it.
name of that whole operation had you really included men anyway. You got bleeped right off the air with 1 billion men rising.
Yeah, exactly.
But some people who've been through terrible experiences feel that dancing is an inappropriate way to respond to it, and they've said so. So I've been actually I've started a series of blog posts, and I have only just started them, where I'm thinking about some of the issues that they've raised. And these aren't attempts to put anyone down or be hostile to anyone, but to actually think through some of the points that have been made. And today, for example, I was taking this idea that it was a middle class event, and looking at that and seeing whether I thought that was true, and even if it was true, whether that was actually important. And I wasn't just looking here at the Second Life one, I was looking at it, the real life one as well. So that's what I've been doing, and I think I'll probably be doing a few more of these blog posts. They're not meant to be criticizing anyone who's been, negative, well, who's critiqued the OBR event. Yeah. And there have been some, and some are really just trolls, and they're out to provoke a reaction. I really don't have a lot of time for that. I don't have any time for them. But some people are, there are people who've raised genuine concerns and felt that OBR didn't work for them for a variety of reasons. And I want to look at some of those reasons and see how valid I find them, and
well, there was some aspects of that event that I myself found not detrimental, but they didn't help. For an example, the DJs. I didn't see where they were interacting with the crowd or the cause. They weren't promoting it. They weren't saying anything. In fact, for the most part, people didn't know when you went from one DJ to the next. They didn't do sign-ons. They didn't do sign-offs. They didn't promote the cause. They didn't say what they felt. They didn't interact at all. I think that was one thing that could have been enhanced. Here's another. On live stream, you carried an average of about 30 viewers to the World Wide Web. And yet, at the same time, you had 130 avatars, when I checked, on the grid itself. That's logged in. Had there been a shared media screen that provided viewage on all 4 regions, everyone that would have clicked on that screen would have been another number on your live stream count as well, because it would have been another connection. So if you would have put those 130 people that were in world on live stream too, which they would have enjoyed watching themselves, it was brought to me, well, there would be a mix up of sound and audio. There would be the overplay or the double channels. And from my experience with shared media, I know that if you're far enough away, you don't hear it anyway. You can still see it if you clicked on it, but you don't hear it. And so had there been a large screen up over the center of the playa, then you could have also added those viewers to your live stream, and at the same time enhanced the crowd's vigor, their interaction with it by being able to watch themselves on TV.
I felt that too. It was interesting. I have to admit that I thought the live stream audience was it was great fun to do, but it was slightly more disappointing than expected. Although like the Inworld event, there were people dropping in and out. So although we didn't peak on any fast numbers, the aggregate was fine. But yes, there are ways of doing it in worlds that you mute the sound on the.
Well, one of the biggest things isn't so much being able to see yourself in world, but we could have had the chat applet up there, the live stream chat applet in world too, so the people in world could have been chatting with the people that were viewing on the web and made that interaction.
While the really funny things about some of these events, as Pedro would say, I'm sure in a sec, is that people love coming to live streams to actually, and they start chatting, and then you suddenly realise the conversation is totally about, oh, there I am. Yes, hey, there you are.
That's fine for them if that's why they're there. That adds to the jubilance. You don't lose sight of the cause. The DJs keep you in line with that. You know what I mean? But as far as the crowd goes, that's fine that they're cheering themselves on and stuff in there. That adds to that.
I think our reason why we didn't do that was firstly, and Pet will vouch for this, our experience with double streaming in World have been fairly dire. And having two things happening at once, we knew that we were going to get quite a few new people coming in and that it could really confuse them. The other thing was we were terrified of lag. We knew that lag was going to be a problem, and it was. And we did have sims that kept going down and crashing again and again. So we wanted to keep things as simple as possible.
But keep in mind that all your media is client side. So it's up to the individual's bandwidth, whether he can handle the mixed media and all of that. As far as load on the servers, all that media streaming is client side, not server side.
I think under the circumstances... I'm sorry, go ahead, Mel.
I was just going to say that I actually agree mostly with AV on the fact that I really think the DJs could have done a better job of integrating with the audience, and a couple of them, they were great, but they came on and just played a set of mix and vanished.
For the most part, not all of them, but the majority of them, didn't say too much. Some of them mixed parts of this. They made mixes that included part of the song.
Yeah.
And of course, all the DJs at the bottom of the hour, we had the Rising Dance. They knew to do that. But you're right, there could have been a little more support coming directly from them during their performances. Some of them.
I don't think all of them had the capacity. Some of them didn't even voice. Some of them did, and some of them just didn't voice at all. That cute little meerkat who did a couple of hours in the morning, just didn't voice, and quite a few tinies, of course, won't voice because it will break the illusion.
It destroys the illusion,
and that's a problem. I mean, maybe because actually that little tiny played an absolutely great set.
Shakespeare, he did. Shakespeare Shamrock, I think, yeah.
Shakespeare Shamrock, but didn't voice.
Right.
And,
he said a lot in chat.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say, I think under the circumstances with the Sims being as unstable as they were, this year, a lot of the chat would have been, what's going on? I had to TP out. Well, blah, blah, blah. I think once the whole environment, like this was our first year. Next year we'll have new ideas and ways to make it even better. And I'm sure we'll have more stable Sims next year too. I believe that. I want to believe that. I'm going to believe it. I'm not going to say it's never going to get better. But I think chat might have added chaos this year. I think next year would be really, really great to integrate it. I think it's a great idea.
I think you're right, Pat. We did try at one point. One of the things we
Mm-hmm.
tried was putting together a chat bridge. So
right,
that's right. And Honor spent about half a day trying to set up a chat bridge so that people could communicate across all 4 Sims. And it just had so many technical problems and
Chase Maryland.
so bad that we gave up. We said, okay, no, we're not going to do that.
We live and learn. I think that's the
Well, we had 5 weeks from a standing start to put the whole thing together. It wasn't quite as bad as the 6 weeks we had to put SL9B together, but it was still it was still pretty
It was a
pants,
crunch.
especially when you throw the
Well,
video
that says
in
quite a
as
bit for
well.
you, Safia. Just to hear you say that, that's quite an undertaking, and to have that kind of turnaround time, and to have the whole thing choreographed and synced and in place, and the show goes on. That's really a feather in your cap, because the people that don't know, what all is involved in putting all these different facets together in a production of this size. But the people that do can really appreciate, where you're coming from, and you'll probably get your door knocked on a lot, from this.
I see
Yeah,
what you
I think.
Yeah, I think my door has got
Holes
several
in
boots
it.
watching it open.
Well, it was a
Okay,
great team.
I'd like to divert us a bit before we wind up. Pet love. I know you have something to say on this. Remembering our friends.
Yes, remembering our friends. For those of you who don't know, is a place that has been maintained by Mike Burley for many years, at least 4 or 5 years that I know of.
7.
7. That's what I
7
thought.
years.
I wasn't sure. It's a place where people can go and set up a memorial for our friends who have passed away, who we've learned to love and spent time with in Second Life. And sadly, he's having to close it now.
I can't
Because
see losing the SL graveyard. That's just something you don't do.
it's as people,
somebody's got to step up and take that.
we need, it's a need that has only been filled by Mike that I know of. And my first thought was, wouldn't it be nice if Linden Lab could support this somehow? It would be a nice community relation thing for them, and it would continue to supply those of us who love our friends here, and it would give us a place to share the sadness and get over it. It's terrible to lose friends in Second Life. It really is.
Pat, being a member of the LEA, and how the LEA supports the arts and the artists in Second Life by enabling them space to, do their builds, and helping out the art houses that are going under due to tier and that kind of thing. That perhaps maybe I could bring this up in the committee. I don't know how it would fly, but maybe
that would
we
be
could
great.
find some land in the LEA. It doesn't take that much.
He could probably,
little...
he'd be fine with anything that they could provide, because I've seen him downsize. And that would be wonderful, Lab. Thank you. That would be awesome.
And perhaps we can work something out that way to save that.
Excellent. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, I think maybe we can all work a bit to find somewhere.
Great.
It's just it's a special thing. It's a very special thing, and it would be a shame to let it go by the wayside.
No, absolutely. We've got to find a place for it, and I think working together we should be able to come up with something. I think it is, it's not a full sim or anything we need. It's just a place. So.
Even just a parcel, even a 4096, would be fine.
Okay. Now we're really pushing the time again, I'm afraid. I want to back to Safia, because I know Safia has some what's ons and stuff to fill us in on, especially her shows, of course. And then we'll sort of go around the table. We'll start with Safia.
Okay, well, we've got Designing Worlds coming up tomorrow, 2 p.m. SRT, and it's going to be a really fun one. We go to a science fiction sim. These are the Araxis sims that are based on Dune. Well, up to a point there, because they were based on Dune until the Frank Herbert estate got involved. They've now become a kind of general desert sci-fi set of sims, and they're really gorgeous, and they had some amazing things here. They're using pathfinding in really interesting ways, monsters that will hunt you across the desert wastes and that sort of thing. I'll also be talking to someone who's got a really interesting webcomic project, where he's setting up a webcomic where the reader has actually got the pictures come from Second Life, and yet it's interactive in that the reader will have a chance to vote on the outcome of storylines. It's a bit, almost a build your own adventure thing. Interesting with connection with Versu coming out this week. But this is kind of residents doing it for themselves and using Second Life as the medium to tell the story, which, of course, I'm very interested in.
That sounds great. Yeah, I think I've vaguely heard of that one.
So that's coming up, and then there's an episode of Happy Hunting on Friday, which poor old Pet has got to edit, as though she hasn't had enough.
It's on the list.
To do over the last few days.
It's on the list. Yeah, I want to pull a few videos out of the weekend too, but it's okay. We have our priorities.
So, is that it, Safia, or anything else?
Yeah, apart from the fact we're going to be starting to look at Relay for Life. Relay for Life is starting soon. And we'll be starting to think about the birthday, yes, because that's just because we did it all in 6 weeks last time doesn't mean we have to do it in 6 weeks' time this time.
You want more time, Safia, but you don't need more time.
No, we know we can do it by the skin of our pants, but you
shouldn't have to.
We take it nice and steadily.
That would be wise.
Okay, Pet Love, anything you got coming out? You can think of anything we should be attending to this week?
Well, I would just like to suggest that everybody watch YouTube and watch Vimeo and watch anywhere for anything that has come out of the 1 Billion Rising event. There were some really, really fine live performances at the end of the show, at the end of the day, that I'm going to put some videos out on. They were fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's all I want to say. I don't want the cause to die. Just because it's over, I would hate to see it sink beneath the waves until next year. It would be nice to sort of keep it,
find a way to keep
somewhat
it
current. Yeah, so that's what I'd like to say.
We got the kiosk here too.
And we'll have the kiosks. Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's a start. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would like to put a plug in for the video Pathic Machinima Gallery. It is updated every day, and there are new artists and machinimas added every day. So if you've been there yesterday and you thought you've seen it, go back.
There's also a really fun gaming arcade there too, Lap, that you don't talk about. But there's some great just arcade video games that you can play that are perfectly streamed and easy to use, and they're a lot of fun.
Yes.
They're a lot of fun.
I spent a whole night there one night playing. I think it was Shootout.
Hitman.
Or something.
Hitman.
These are shared media, interactive flash games, just like you would play on the web, whether it be chess or zombie killers or tank killer. You can play these games in Second Life, and the arcade over there at the Videopathic Gallery has these. And then on top of that is Area 54 in Second Life. This is new.
Thoth Jansen
and I have kind of partnered up. We've had a long time common interest in media art. And the diffusion of video and the different ways that you can apply video to art and that kind of thing. And so Area 54 up there is really a piece of eye candy if you get the chance to stop by and see that too.
Actually, I have a video. I do have a video out of Thoth's work. If you want to see it, it's on my channel. We'll put it in the stream somewhere sometime. But it's beautiful.
Give it to me, Pet Love. We'll run it next week if we have.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Joel, thank you for coming along. Anything else from you?
Thanks, Mal, for having me.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for having me. It was interesting, and I guess I thought my little innocuous topic would be good for a few minutes of discussion, but glad it was up the main line for real talk.
It really was, because it fits in with everything that we do. We're talking about people being people and how they're being people. It's interesting.
Makes me wish I still had a way to keep running We Are the Network. In any case, thanks much, Mal, and hope to talk to you soon. Everybody.
Okay, well, thanks, Joel, for being with us, and also my thanks to Lab, and we'll have to have you back. This discussion could go on a long while. It's
love
great.
To do it. Thanks so much.
I told you time flies.
It does.
And thanks always. Wonderful Pet Love here for filming, but also for joining us as well today.
Thank you, Mal. Thanks.
The sandwiches we had early on. Thanks, Bet.
Thank you.
And once again, thanks to Sapir for co-hosting with me, if that's the word.
I
Yes,
think so.
Good point.
still
Thanks,
there.
Mel. Thanks, Mel.
And with that, we're going to head back. We're closing down the Inworld review, as it were, and I'm going to play a couple of clips on the channel. If you're watching live, we've got a noob parade and a tiny avatar parade. Parades galore. And then hopefully I'll be back there, but if I'm not, I will set the camera for Tara's roundup of the week, since we are pushing it to the limit this week. So thanks everybody for watching. This should be up on YouTube, and probably not quite as soon as normal, but in the near future. And of course you can watch the replays at live stream as well. So that's it for this week. Thanks for being here, and we will see you next week. And here is a noob parade, whatever that might be.